Shalom, how's everyone doing? Today is day 53 of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, and we'll be learning Siman Seif. Let's begin. Kol brachos, all the brachos, chutz mi berchas hamazon, sheyivor mi yirtzeh Hashem, right, except for berchas hamazon, as will be explained later. Im nestapik behem im amram, o lo amram, eno chozim mevarich. If a person's in doubt whether he already said the bracha, he does not go and repeat it. Okay? So the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is teaching us a halacha here. He's teaching us the halacha of safek brachos lahakal. When somebody's in doubt whether or not he has to say a bracha, we say, in doubt, he doesn't say the bracha. Where does this come from? It comes from the Gemara, Maseches Brachos. The Gemara, Maseches Brachos, says as follows. This is in Brachos, Daf, Chaf, Aleph, Amud Aleph. It quotes the Shita for Belazar. Belazar says, Safek kara Kriya Shema, Safek lo kara, chozer v'koreh. If somebody's in doubt whether or not he already said Kriya Shema, we say he says it again, in doubt. However, Safek Espalal, Safek lo Espalal, if a guy doesn't know if he daven Shemona Esrei or not, we say, Eino chozer mispal. He does not go back and say Shemona Esrei again. If you look at the Rif and the Rosh and the Rambam, they all explain, you know what the difference is between Kriya Shema and Shemona Esrei? Kriya Shema is Deoraisa. So we tell this guy, maybe he has to say a Deoraisa, so we have a rule of Safek Deoraisa l'chumra. If somebody's in doubt whether he has to fill a mitzvah Deoraisa, we say in doubt you have to do it again. However, in terms of Shemona Esrei is only Derabanan, so we say Safek Derabanan l'kula. Right, so we have a rule, Safek Derabanan l'kula. If I'm in doubt whether I have to do a Derabanan, we say you don't have to do it. So let's bring it back to brachos. Most brachos are only a mitzvah midirabanan, so we say Safek Derabanan l'kula. I'm in doubt whether or not I should fulfill this mitzvah derabanan, we say you don't have to go and fulfill it. But the question is, okay, you don't have to. Let's take brachos for example. Safek brachos akel. I don't know if I said hamotzi or not. So we say in doubt you don't have to go say it again. But am I allowed to? That's a major question. So we'll start with the Chai Adam. The Chai Adam has a whole long piece, and he says, what's the problem? If a guy doesn't know if he said hamotzi or not, what's the problem with saying hamotzi again? Because as we know, one of the reasons you're allowed to say the name of Hashem in vain, is because you're praising Hashem, right? You're in the process of praising Hashem. So take a look at this guy. This guy is not sure whether or not he said hamotzi. So why not let him praise Hashem and say hamotzi again? He ends off the piece. He's like, I don't know why nobody agrees with me because everyone says that we don't let you say the bracha if you're in doubt, but he doesn't know why. So the Chacham Shlomo explains why. The Chacham Shlomo says no. The Chai Adam has a whole nice piece, fine, and he agrees with this yisod that if you're in the process of praising Hashem, that's not going to be the problem. But as he explained, as we've mentioned previously, the Chacham Shlomo holds that if I just get out of nowhere and just say a bracha, like let's say I say I'm not eating bread, that looks like making a joke out of things, right? I'm blessing Hashem for bread, I'm not eating bread. So he says that's not derech shevach, that's really derech of like making a joke. So he says the same thing here. Let's say I already made hamotzi, and I'm making hamotzi again. It makes it look like a joke. Like I just said hamotzi, I'm saying it again. That's going to look like a joke, so that's also going to be problematic. Right? He uses the line like Safek sheker sheker, right? You're in doubt whether you or not you said a falsehood, like we don't care that you're in doubt. So that's why he says that when it comes to brachos, we have this rule of Safek brachos hakel, and we actually don't let you say a bracha because it's kind of make the whole thing look like a joke, and that's going to be the problem of saying an unnecessary bracha. But what's still clear from the Chacham Shlomo is that if I would go and I would say a bracha again, that wouldn't be the Issa D'Oraisa of saying Hashem's name in vain. There wouldn't be the Issa D'Oraisa since technically I am praising Him. It would only be a problem on a D'Rabbanan level. That an unnecessary bracha would only be a problem of a D'Rabbanan level because it's not totally in vain, because there is a reason I'm doing it. It's not just I'm saying it out of the blue, but it would be an Issa nevertheless. Okay. But the Ritva raises an interesting point. The Ritva says, true. We don't want this guy to make another bracha because there is an issur to say an unnecessary bracha. That's true. And we're afraid that this is really unnecessary. But there's another issur at play. There's an issur, the Gemara says, to eat without making a bracha. The Gemara says, Kol hanenem en olam hazeh lo bracha kilu ma'al. Somebody who gets benefit from this world without blessing Hashem, it's like he's stealing from Hashem. So, and that's what the Rabbanan say. So we have two Rabbanans at play. One, we have a D'Rabbanan that we don't let you say an unnecessary bracha. And two, we have a D'Rabbanan that says you're not allowed to eat without making a bracha. So how do we choose? How do we choose which side to go with? So the Ritva deals with this, and he says, true, we don't know what to do. This is the Ritva Masech HaShabbos, Taf Chav Gimel, and he says, true, they're both Derabanan, but we say, Sheiv al Taisa Adif, Me'isura Dekum V'asei. Right, when you have two Derabanans going against each other, we have a rule, Sheiv al Taisa, don't do anything. Right, so what are we going to tell this guy to do? Either he could say an unnecessary bracha, which is bad, or he could eat without saying bracha, which is bad. So we say, throw up your hands, don't do anything. And if it turns out that you're going to be eating without a bracha, because maybe you actually didn't say a bracha, that's fine, Sheiv al Taisa Adif. But the Yavitz raises a point. He's like, okay, we say Sheiv al Taisa Adif, don't do anything. Maybe you shouldn't eat. Right? I don't know if I made hamusi or not. I have this bread in front of me. Okay, we don't let you say a bracha, because that might be an unnecessary bracha. We don't let you, we shouldn't let you eat because maybe you didn't make bracha. So he says, don't do anything. That's what the Yavitz holds. The Yavitz Taka holds that. If you look in the Aruch Shulchan, the Aruch Shulchan says that there's a Gemara Maseches Baba Kama that says, who's a chassid? Who's a chassid? Somebody who keeps Hilchos Brachos. Somebody who keeps Hilchos Brachos. Aruch Shulchan asks, every Jew keeps Hilchos Brachos. What do you mean a chassid keeps Hilchos Brachos? So Aruch Shulchan says that, what does it mean he's a chassid, he keeps Hilchos Brachos? It means he doesn't rely on the kula of Safek Brachos Lahakel. Right, like, talking to this guy. This guy, technically, we say, throw up your hands that you don't have to eat. Throw up your hands that you don't make a bracha. You don't make a bracha. But he doesn't want to continue eating. He doesn't want to rely on the kula of Safek Brachos Lahakel. So, the Aruch Shulchan doesn't go so far as the Yavitz to say that you can't eat, but the Aruch Shulchan says maybe there is a chumrah out there, that maybe you shouldn't eat anything. However, or if you look at all the other poskim, if you look in the Shpura, they don't mention this idea that maybe there's even like this minas chasidus to not eat. But l'chora they have a good point. Like, shouldn't we say, aren't you going to get this problem of getting benefit from this world without a bracha? So there's two ways to answer that. One is, since Chazal said you're patur, right? Because they said you have the Safek Brachos Lahakel idea. So your patur, they also took away this idea that it's like you're getting benefit from those world without a bracha. Okay, that's one answer. Another thing, this is actually the Dibros Moshe says this in Arvei Pesachim Siman Yod, and he says, no, you're still gonna say a bracha. You're gonna say a bracha achrona, right? Let's say the case is like bread, like you're still gonna bench because you're gonna have a k'tzayis of bread. So even if you didn't say the first bracha, we won't have a problem of getting hana from this world without a bracha. But then there's another suggestion, right? So we're going to say, Safek Brachos Lahakel, I don't know if I said a bracha or not. The halacha says, you could continue eating, you don't have to say a bracha, fine. But I have an even better idea. Why doesn't he just not say the bracha, but he should think the bracha? Right? Because halacha is, you're allowed to think Shem Hashem, right? The problem is only bitoy, it's only speaking out Shem Hashem for no reason. Thinking Shem Hashem for no reason is not going to be an issur. So this guy should think of bracha, right? He's thinking Shem Hashem, right? You might ask me, thinking doesn't do anything, right? Brachos, you have to speak it out. So what will I tell you? Most Rishonim actually hold that. Yeah, most Rishonim hold you have to say the bracha. What does the Rambam say? The Rambam says, yeah, you really should speak out a bracha, but b'di'evet, after the fact, if you just think the bracha, you're yotzei b'di'evet. And if you look in the Shulchan Aruch and Siman Samach Beis, he says, if you're an anus, if you're somebody who can't speak, we rely on the Rambam, right? We say that you actually should just think the bracha, and okay, at least you have the Rambam on your side. So shouldn't we say the same thing here, right? This guy, we don't let him say another bracha because it might be an unnecessary bracha. Should just think the bracha, and maybe he'll at least be yosei according to the Rambam. And who says to do this? If you look in the Tzach Maseches Bracha says to do this. Right, the Aruch Shulchan himself says that this is probably your best bet to think the bracha. So seemingly everything's great. L'chora, that's a great idea. The only problem is the Pri Megadim points out, and he says, so why doesn't the Rambam say that? Right, the Rambam is the Shita who holds that thinking it is enough, and yet he never brings down anywhere that if you're in a position of Safek, you should just think it. So seemingly he holds Safek Brachos Lahakel all the way, that you don't even think it. So what's pshat? So if you look at the Ksav Sofer, the Ksav Sofer says as follows. He says, we really don't like people saying unnecessary brachos. It's a very big issur. Even though he says, true, it's only going to be an issur d'Rabbanan, we still treat this issur very seriously. And he says, Mishum harchaka, lo plug. Right? He says we want to distance people from saying bracha vatala, so we said a low play. We don't distinguish lo hitir lahar here bracha vatala. We don't let people think bracha vatala. So that's what the Ksav Sofer says. The Ksav Sofer says no, it's not the best option in the world just thinking the bracha if you don't actually have to say it. He says that thinking it might lead to actually saying it. So he says it's not your best bet. So we have a little machlokas here, right? We have the Aruch Shulchan Tzach on one side, who says, yeah, thinking it probably is a great idea. At least you could be Yosef according to the Rambam. But the Ksav Sofer is saying that it's not your best bet. But even the Tzlach, at the end of his piece, he agrees me'ikar din you're fine. He says, Savik bracha, harshus biyada, aval ein mechuyev lasos kein. When it comes to Savik bracha, he's allowed to think it, but he doesn't have to, right? Because it's clear from the Gemara. Right, it's clear from the Gemara itself. Safik Espal, Safik Lo Espal. Right, the source of this whole din of Safik D'Rabbanan L'Kula, that we don't say this guy. Like the Gemara itself never says that this guy should think it. So even the Tzach who says that it might be a good thing to actually think the bracha, he admits you're not chayiv to do that.